Have you ever stopped, maybe during a tough semester, and just wondered how much of your college journey, or really your whole education, has been shaped by things outside your own choices, that forces maybe you didn't even see?
Yeah, it's a powerful question. We tend to focus so much on individual effort, right?
Exactly. And today, we're doing a deep dive into the sociology of education to look at those bigger forces. We want to uncover some key insights, maybe some surprising facts about how it all works.
That's the plan. So we'll explore what schools are actually for, sociologically speaking. We'll dig into some key theories that help make sense of it all.
Okay.
And then we'll look at the real-world ways, the actual mechanisms that sometimes end up reinforcing inequality rather than reducing it.
And we're drawing on some solid sources for this.
Absolutely. We're leaning heavily on foundational sociology, like the perspectives in Giddens' work, and also bringing in some really vivid human stuff from Laura Hamilton's book, Parenting to a Degree.
Ah, yes. Heard good things about that one.
It's fantastic. The goal here is really to connect these big sociological ideas directly to your experiences so you can maybe see your own path in a new light.
Okay, let's jump in. A big idea many of us here growing up is that education is the great equalizer, the ladder everyone can climb.
Right, the idea that it reduces gaps in wealth and power.
But is that really what education is for, sociologically? Or does it sometimes do the opposite, like actually keep the inequalities we already have? What's the core debate there?
Well, that's one of the biggest debates, really. On one hand, you've got the argument that making education available to everyone should theoretically level the playing field, give everyone a shot.
Makes sense.
But then there's a really strong counterargument, backed by a lot of research, suggesting that schools often end up just reproducing the inequalities that exist outside the school doors.
Reproducing them. How so?
Well, sociological theories help us pick that apart. They show us how both things can kind of be true, how education can be both an opportunity and a system that reinforces existing structures.
And this really challenges how we think about, say, a college degree itself. Let's talk about credentialism. Is that the idea that sometimes the piece of paper, the credential, matters more than what you actually learned?
That's exactly it. It's this overemphasis society places on credentials, like degrees as signals of status, signals of qualification for jobs. Sometimes, that signal can seem more important than the practical skills.
So the degree itself becomes a kind of symbol.
Precisely. And that connects directly to another key concept, cultural capital.
Okay, cultural capital, what's that about?
Think about someone who just sails through college applications, knows the right clubs to join, feels totally comfortable arguing in class. That ease often comes from cultural capital.
So it's not just money.
Not just money, no. It's the advantages well-off parents often give their kids: valuable knowledge, certain skills, even just ways of talking and acting that are rewarded in school and later in professional life.
And the crucial part is that not everyone has equal access to this capital.
Exactly. It's unequally distributed. Annette LaRoe's research, for instance, was groundbreaking in showing how families pass this on, how navigating college successfully becomes this huge class-based parenting project for many.
Wow. So this capital isn't just stuff you have outside school. It actively helps you inside school, too.
Yeah.
And the system itself might even play a role. Let's talk about tracking.
Right, tracking. That's when schools split students into different groups: honors, regular, basic, supposedly based on ability.
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, sociologists tend to view tracking pretty negatively. The argument is that it often just reinforces the inequalities students came in with. It sets them on different paths early on.
Even if schools say they don't do it.
Yeah, Jeannie Oakes did a big study back in '85. She found that even schools claiming not to track usually had ways of sorting students anyway. So kids get channeled, and it can limit their options down the road, maybe regardless of their actual potential.
That's subtle but powerful. Then there's the hidden curriculum. This isn't about the subjects taught, right? It's more the unspoken stuff.
Exactly. Think about the rules you learned implicitly. How to talk to teachers, when to speak up, when to stay quiet, how important being on time is, how competition works.
Stuff that wasn't on the syllabus.
Right. It's the unwritten rules, the values, the norms that schools transmit just by how they operate. And the worry is that this hidden curriculum can also reinforce social class differences.
How so? Like different expectations in different schools?
Potentially, yes. Some research suggests schools in poorer areas might emphasize obedience and following rules, while schools in wealthier areas might encourage more critical thinking or leadership skills. It's not always intentional, but it can happen.
Okay. Another thing that comes up in sorting students is intelligence testing, IQ tests.
Yes, IQ tests, which aim to measure reasoning or symbolic abilities, there's been a long contentious debate about them.
About whether intelligence is genetic or environmental.
That's a big part of it. You had books like The Bell Curve back in the 90s suggesting heredity played a significant role in group differences in IQ scores.
I remember the controversy around that.
Huge controversy. But importantly, other sociologists, like a group at Berkeley, reanalyzed that same data. They found that socioeconomic background, how well off your family is, actually had a much bigger impact on your risk of ending up in poverty than the original authors claimed.
So the environment, the background, mattered more.
That's substantially more, according to that reanalysis. It shows how these tests and the assumptions we make about intelligence based on them can get tangled up with stereotypes about a student's background and really influence their educational path.
This all leads perfectly into Laura Hamilton's work in parenting, to a degree. She really puts a human face on these big ideas, doesn't she?
She really does. Her core argument is that college benefits aren't shared equally in the U.S. The way the system works now, relying so much on parents' resources, time, money, know-how, it actually makes existing class and race inequalities worse.
It's become this central parenting project, as she puts it.
Yeah, with a huge cost, financially and emotionally, for many families.
And she talks about how universities have changed, moving away from that old idea of in loco parentis.
Exactly. That idea that the university acts in place of the parent is mostly gone. Now, it's more of a market model. Students and parents are consumers.
For universities almost expect parents to step in.
They often do. Hamilton argues they implicitly assume and sometimes even recruit parents to handle a lot of stuff: financial aid, emotional meltdowns, career networking. It helps the university run efficiently, but it outsources the work to families.
And that costs parents. And maybe it doesn't help kids become independent.
That's the paradox she points out. It can drain parents' resources and might actually foster more dependence in their kids. She has this fascinating concept, laundering privilege.
Laundering privilege, what does that mean?
It means all the intense parental help, the networking, the financial safety net, the constant advising gets washed away or hidden. So when the student succeeds, it looks like it was purely their own individual talent and hard work. The structural advantage disappears from view.
That's a really sharp insight. And she identifies different ways parents approach this, different visions of college.
Yes, 5 distinct visions, each tied to a different parenting approach, and largely shaped by social class. It shows the different strategies families use.
Let's unpack those. The first is the career-building experience, the professional helicopters.
Right. These are typically affluent parents, super involved, laser focused on academics and setting their kids up for professional careers. Think high GPAs, strategic majors, internships.
Like the example of Andrea and Keith helping their daughter Taylor with pre-dental.
Exactly. They're managing the process, leveraging their networks. Or Anna, who felt her high tuition costs entitled her daughter to top-tier career services from the business school.
And the outcome for these kids?
Generally pretty successful, solid grades, they land professional jobs, often delay marriage for their careers. But it's hugely labor-intensive and expensive for the parents who might still be providing support long after graduation, like for Taylor's dental school.
Okay, so that's one model. What's the second? The social experience, the pink helicopters.
Also affluent, also intensely involved, but the focus shifts. Here, it's more about the daughter's social life, having fun, maybe meeting a future husband, the so-called Mrs. degree.
Wow, that's a different priority.
Totally. They fund the sororities, the nice apartments, the social activities. Think of Cindy, who is more focused on her daughter Naomi's POMS team than her major. Or Frank, deciding a social experience was fine when his daughter didn't get into top schools.
And they intervene in things like roommates.
Oh, yeah. Getting rid of the stinky roommate, pushing for sororities, for connections, using family ties for easy internships, like Abby working for her dad's business.
So how does that turn out, usually?
Well, the daughters tend to have a lot of fun, but often with lower GPAs, maybe choosing easier majors. Then they struggle finding career track jobs after college and remain dependent on their parents for money and networking.
Which can frustrate the parents eventually.
Definitely. They might get annoyed by the lack of career progress or the continued financial drain, like Cindy realizing her pension was funding Naomi's post-grad life in NYC.
Okay, third group. The mobility experience. With supportive bystanders. Who are these parents?
These are more middle or lower middle class parents.
No.
They deeply believe education is the key to a better, more secure future for their kids. They offer lots of emotional support, stretch financially,
Right.
but they often lack the detailed insider knowledge of how college really works today. They can't provide the same kind of strategic guidance as the helicopter parents.
So they believe in the system but don't know how to navigate it as effectively.
Right. Like Robert, who felt the university let his daughter Stacy down with poor advising, or Eileen, upset when Karen was discouraged from teaching. They often assume support services exist that aren't really there or aren't accessible to their kids.
Like proactive career counseling or mental health outreach.
Exactly. They might assume the university is looking out for their child in ways it simply isn't structured to do, especially at large public universities. And they make sacrifices, like Janice paying for books so Becky wouldn't drop out.
And the outcomes for these students?
It's often a struggle. They can get distracted by the party scene, the advising might be inadequate, leading to lower grades, trouble finding degree-requiring jobs. It's often a long, tough road to finish, and they frequently end up with significant debt. The promised mobility doesn't always materialize easily.
That's tough. Okay, fourth. The adult experience with total bystanders. This sounds like the least advantaged group.
Yes, these parents often expect their kids to be completely independent from the start, usually because the parents themselves face major barriers, financial, emotional, maybe physical distance.
So they just can't offer much support, even if they want to.
Often, yes. Like Diane, who hadn't gone to college and couldn't help her daughter Amanda with homework. Or Amy, who wouldn't dream of asking her dad for moving help. Megan's story is stark juggling farm work, family duties, and classes, feeling pushed into adulthood way too soon.
Or parents dealing with their own issues like divorce or refusing financial documentation.
Exactly. Like Carrie dealing with inconsistent parenting after a divorce. Or Heather, whose parents wouldn't help financially but still claimed her as a dependent, blocking her from aid.
What's college like for these students?
It's incredibly difficult. Major financial stress, often high debt, social isolation. They're working long hours, which hurts their grades. They have a higher risk of dropping out or taking many years to graduate. They basically miss out on that transitional young adult phase.
Just survival mode.
Pretty much a very hard road.
Okay, finally, the fifth group. The hybridized experience with paramedics. What's their approach?
This is an interesting mix. These parents emphasize independence, but they do provide a safety net for real emergencies. They kind of blend strategies. They encourage work, financial responsibility.
But they'll step in if absolutely necessary.
Yes, like paramedics. Kenny wanted his kids independent, minimal contact, choosing their own paths, even foundry work. But they allowed mistakes, saw them as learning opportunities. Alan let Lydia join a sorority despite hating the Greek system.
Even wealthy parents could fall into this.
Yes, like Bob and Debbie, multimillionaires who made their son pay some tuition because they dislike his entitlement. Or Charlie, offering Alana money for good grades only after an injury as emergency motivation.
And how do these daughters tend to fare?
Really well, often. They tend to get good grades, become very resourceful, self-sufficient adults. They might take unconventional paths, like Michelle going to ad school, but they're successful. They learn to manage life and money and are set up for independence without needing ongoing parental bailouts.
It's fascinating how these different approaches, rooted in class, lead to such different experiences and outcomes within the same university system.
It really highlights how central parental resources, money, time, knowledge, connections have become. And, this isn't entirely new. It echoes findings from way back.
Like the Coleman Report.
Exactly. James Coleman's famous 1966 study found that the resources within schools mattered less for student outcomes than the student's family background and neighborhood.
Still true today, it seems. Family context is huge.
It really is. It underscores how much happens outside the classroom that shapes educational success. And with college costs rising and universities relying more on families, you have to ask, like Hamilton does, what the worth of that degree is for someone without those extensive family resources.
It raises questions about needing systemic changes.
Definitely. And there are other related issues sociologists look at, too, like homeschooling, who does it, why, how it's regulated.
Right. Or the gender gap, girls doing better in school, but women still facing disadvantages in the job market.
Yeah. And psychological factors like stereotype threat, or fear of confirming a negative stereotype hurts performance, or stereotype promise, where positive stereotypes can boost it.
And basic access issues, like information poverty.
Absolutely. Lack of access to technology creates yet another divide.
So if we wanted education to really be that mobility pathway, especially for disadvantaged students, What would universities need to do differently based on this research?
Well, Hamilton suggests a few key things. Real financial aid grants, not just loans, plus emergency funds. Majors that clearly lead to jobs without needing family connections. Less focus on the party scene that distracts and excludes.
Making first-gen and low-income students feel like they belong.
Crucial, normalizing their presence. And truly holistic advising, where financial aid, academics, housing, counseling all work together, actively helping students navigate problems, not just waiting for them to ask, creating a real support system.
It paints a picture of a very different kind of university experience.
It does, one focused on bridging gaps, not just reflecting them.
This deep dive has really shown how complex it all is. It's not just about individual smarts or hard work, is it? Social structures, family resources, parenting styles, they all weave together.
Yeah, it's this intricate interplay. Education isn't some simple path. It's shaped profoundly by these larger social forces. The family you come from, their resources, how they engage with the system, it all matters immensely.
It definitely moves beyond just blaming or praising the individual. So, a final thought for you listening. As you think about your own education, maybe high school, maybe college, in what ways has your own experience been shaped more by these social structures we've talked about, rather than just your own personal choices? Something to reflect on.